All right, here we are. First episode of Brewing Up A Conversation. Here's my buddy Tyler, Musemeche.
Mushmack. It was a
I've
close
always
one.
called you Mush just because that's what I've known.
Yeah, it's a lot easier that way.
The point of Brewing Up A Conversation is we take a sip of a drink every time we start one, and it is the guest's favorite drink, whether it be coffee, wine, beer, supplements, whatever. And today, Tyler chose some Starbucks. So tell us about what you got for us.
It's a coffee, a regular one, medium roast, with heavy cream and white mocha.
All right, so this is going to be
Get it?
first taste here of this thing. Let's see how this goes. Not bad, but there was some turmoil at the Starbucks to get the drink.
Yeah. Poor Trent. Probably not getting his coffee.
Yeah, Trent didn't get his coffee. You think the app would make it easier to get a drink, but so what makes you enjoy this? Why is this your go-to?
Even though I worked at a coffee shop for 3 years, I hated coffee, which was weird. And then I finally just started drinking it because the white mocha makes it so sweet, but not an overbearing amount, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it smells like a donut.
Well, yeah. But and that you would think that it tastes a lot sweeter with that smell, but
True.
it's pretty balanced.
So I think we've talked, we've been friends forever, right? Like,
Yeah, coming up on, 15 years maybe?
oh, is it that long? I think it was
I think so.
sophomore year of high school.
We're over 10 for sure.
For sure. But yeah, we met in Guild
What year
Wars
is it?
1. Recruited me to a guild. What was the guild called?
Bros before pros.
Bros Before Pros.
Yeah.
For those of you that aren't familiar with that, you had to have a little guild tag, and it's like how people knew what it was, and it was DDDS for Don't Do Dumb Shit.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. That's hilarious. Yeah. Ever since then, we just kind of hit it off, and we've been best friends. We live several states away.
Several
Got to
states.
hang out a few years ago. That was awesome. But
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I did get sick on our trip up there, though.
Well, you should have flown.
Yeah. Well, not like the trip up there, but while we were there, I got a pretty bad headache. I think there's something in the air where you
Probably
live.
the cookout.
It's probably the cookout.
Your first time cookout experience is always a rough one.
Yeah, they had that watermelon, what was that
Milkshake?
drink? Yeah, the watermelon milkshake.
Yeah, you're not supposed to mix that. Like, that's not a...
Well, yeah, I probably had like 4 of them in the 2 days we were there.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it checks out why you didn't feel too good.
That was probably it.
Yeah.
For being honest with each other.
But yeah, we've known each other for a long time. Seen each other through quite a few ups and downs through life. But yeah, tell everybody, since I know you super well, but not a lot of other people do, tell everyone a little bit about yourself. And just so everyone knows, this has not been really prepared at all. This is right off the rip for the first episode. So he has not been, what's the word, groomed.
I haven't been media trained yet.
Yeah. All right. So hit everybody with who you are and what you do, a little bit about yourself.
I'm Tyler. I write. Used to work at a bookstore and coffee shop. I like wearing hats. And I like hanging out with my boy Chris. Talking about our dreams.
Talking about our dreams. Always dreaming. Yeah. That was very short and sweet for how much you've done.
Modest also.
Huh?
Modest and humble too.
Yeah, that was. So dive into the writing part. Because
I guess it would be easier to talk about the things I've done instead of myself, because I guess I never really talk about myself because I write other things. Like fantasy is usually what I write. Like YA fantasy. Like dragons and magic and things. Which is far different from me.
So you've written essentially 2 novels within the same world you've created.
Yeah.
And you've written another short story.
Yeah,
And
a couple short stories, a couple like one-off stories that don't follow any kind of trilogy or type deal.
well, I
So
think the
in
biggest.
total, maybe like 5 projects. Yeah.
So name them. Which ones are they?
It would be Pariahs, which would be the YA fantasy, the book 2 for that. The Lady of Ice short story, the Seven Deadly Sins, Seven Lively Friends type with the sins living in the apartment,
That one's so good.
and then something, not the card game, but Swarm, where it's kind of a post-apocalyptic world,
Oh.
where like not eggplant,
Yeah, eggplants take
yeah,
over.
threw that one through.
Post-apocalyptic eggplant world.
Well, they use a fruit as a currency because the world's destroyed,
Okay,
and
okay.
so it's harder to grow them. It makes a lot more sense instead of just saying eggplants.
Cool.
So yeah, 5.
That's impressive. And I mean, these are like the Pariahs 1 and 2 is pretty robust. I mean, we're talking like thick, like Lord of the Rings style, like novels.
Not that thick. I don't know
Pretty thick.
I don't know their word counts, but I'm probably at like 80 or 90K for Pariahs 1. I think
Which is
Lord of the
pretty
Rings is
sweet.
probably like 120, 130 minimum.
It's pretty close.
Pretty close.
It's only like
I,
only like 3 or 4 pages.
I couldn't, if I changed my writing style to the way he wrote them, I could easily get there, but
So
it's not always about
what's
the
the
words.
difference? Like, what's the difference between like the writing style that you use for Pariahs, for instance, or anything else, versus someone like Tolkien or anyone of that, like C.S. Lewis or someone like that?
Well, so when he started writing those books, they were actually written in the newspaper, and the higher the word count he had, the more money he would make. So he was encouraged to, describe things a lot more in depth and just find a lot more words to use, which is why, old stories like that are so long. It's
Yeah,
because that's how the writing started out, and it just carried over into the genre.
which is why Peter Jackson made like 4 hour long films for each
Right.
one.
It's because the longer it was, the more you'd make, essentially.
Yeah,
But I just don't write like that. I focus a lot more on the characters, instead of, the weight of that coffee cup.
yeah. The
I'm not going to
immense
spend
detail.
I'm not going to spend 7 sentences on that.
Yeah, I mean, he made like several languages. Like he's kind of the forefather
Yeah.
of a lot of fantasy.
And that's just not something that I would spend so much time on.
I mean, your character development is pretty in depth. I mean, it's definitely
I think so, yeah.
yeah, it's awesome.
That's the most important part to me, is the characters.
Yeah,
Because as long as the characters are good, I find that people are gonna attach themselves to the story anyway,
definitely.
through the character.
All right, so let's move. That's a good segue into kind of like what we talked about for the whole topic of this thing is like being creative as a man, how you became creative, why you were creative, and what has that done for you? I know it's a lot to unpack, but we got
Yeah.
plenty of time. I got a whole coffee here, so
Yeah, don't let it get cold either.
sorry.
Um,
So go dive into that. Tell everybody kind of as much as you want to go into detail about how
Sure.
you got into this.
Just the whole deal.
What's the whole deal?
Just getting into all of it.
Oh, do it. Let's do it.
I feel like I was lucky enough to be born with the talent that I have, and I didn't just become creative or anything. It was definitely always there, but what really brought it out of me was a few years ago when I wasn't so well off mentally, and I turned to drugs and substances for a while, and a good couple years actually, where it wasn't a good lifestyle to have, but that's kind of how I coped with things at the time. But and it was actually pariahs that kind of pulled me out of that, because I had this idea for a story and I got really invested in it, and I realized that I couldn't dedicate myself to it as much as I needed to because of, all of the drugs and the headspace that using them put me in.
Yeah.
So it was difficult to give the story the attention that it needed. And I found myself, doing drugs and drinking less and less as I was getting more and more into the world building and creating the story, until eventually I was ready to write, and I still couldn't because I kind of crippled myself with the substance abuse. And I was fortunate enough to be able to recognize that and stop completely, because I was so immersed in starting the story that I was ready to write. And I feel like not too many people, regardless of whatever their reasons are, I feel like not too many people are actually able to, even if they recognize it, not, pull themselves out of it so easily. And not to say it was easy, but to just stop cold turkey. So I feel really fortunate that I do have the ability to write the way I do, because it, if I didn't do that and I didn't have the ability, who knows what would have happened.
Yeah. I mean, first off, I just go back to thinking about, like, dude, it is so crazy.
because we were friends during that time too.
Yeah. And I remember that was right out of high school-ish. Graduated the same year. Me and you just hit it off. We just like clicked. And I remember like giving you, like, we traded phone numbers. Like, we had each other on Facebook. You saw me some like picture of me holding a Young Life sign up.
Yeah,
I was naked for a
that
car
was so
wash.
funny.
And we just clicked after that. I remember we thought we were going to end up at the same Young Life camp that year too for the summer.
Yeah,
and that
I
was just
remember
going to
that.
be the biggest thing.
That was like the highlight. It's like, this dude I met playing Guild Wars, we're going to be at the same camp. It's going to be hilarious.
And for people who don't know what Guild Wars is, it's basically like if your parents wouldn't pay for a subscription to play World of Warcraft, you went to Guild Wars.
You had Guild Wars, yeah.
It's like a step up from RuneScape. But it was, off topic a little bit, that fantasy world we immersed ourselves in, we got lost in, and that kept us out of a lot of things during our high school years. Like that world is awesome. That world still is awesome. That's a legendary story.
Met a lot of really cool people playing that game.
Oh, definitely. It is crazy. But I remember I was graduating high school. You had gone off to university, right? You had gone right to university. I was at a community college, and I remember us talking, and we stayed in touch. Probably like we caught up like every month or something like that. Roughly.
Consistently, yeah.
Yeah, and you were kind of like, I think you were almost like afraid to like say anything to me about it, but at the same time you could find some refuge because like we had never met.
I definitely was at first, because it's easy to talk about now, that it's in the past, and I've grown and learned from it, but at the time, it's not something to be proud of.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to another podcast this morning that's like going through that though, like that's character development.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, in your personal life.
And I'm glad that I was able to go through it. I wish I didn't have to, like, in that way.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot of patience with other people.
I remember being so freaked out and so worried about you, man. Like, what's going on with my buddy, dude? How do I help? Like, I just want to like fly down there, and I've never been on a plane before, but I want to fly down there and just be like, pull you out of it and just put you in a better position. And I'm glad
it probably didn't help that I'm not the best texter or responder either, because when I'm gonna like go out and do something and then don't answer for a few days, it's probably not the probably not the best feeling.
Shout out to Maurice, bro, if you're listening to this, when you freaked me out thinking that Tyler had died because he didn't text me for like 2 days. Yeah. Sorry for calling you in the movies, bro.
False alarm.
Yeah. I mean, he's another guy. You grew up with Maurice. I met Maurice gaming as well. And it's cool because you have that, like, that's what's so beautiful about gaming is that if you looked at us, like, in school, we were closet nerds because, like, gaming was not cool.
No,
back in like
slightest.
the mid-2000s. Like, and even early teens. Now it's like, oh, you don't game? Like, you're a loser. Like, it's kind of weird.
It's definitely, like, developed into, like, its own culture over
Oh, for sure. I think Twitch has been
so.
a big thing of that.
Yeah, definitely. But one of the big things from the pandemic is it kind of shined a light on that, and people are a lot more open with it now.
For sure. But it was just cool that we had this common denominator that, like, just... we all played games and we're all so different, but we could just be friends because of this.
Right.
But getting back to this, I remember being so freaked out and so worried. I'm like, this is one of my best friends. And ever since we've met, we've had long phone calls, whether one of us is driving somewhere or even still to this day, like we'll talk on the phone for like 4 hours, just talk about our dreams or just doing whatever. Like
just hanging out.
Just hanging out.
The best way we can, 4 or 5 states apart. Exactly.
But I feel like with society today, I feel like it's suppressed men's creativity in a sense. Like society doesn't want men to be creative anymore. And maybe that might be a hot take. But I don't know. We kind of talked about this a while back.
We did, yeah. I'm unsure if it's not that society doesn't want men to be creative. I do think though that it's kind of commonplace for that to be pushed aside a lot more for the things that society does expect from men.
Why do you think that is?
That's a good question. I guess just up until this point, men have kind of needed or been forced into specific roles that don't necessarily allow creativity to flourish. And now that's just how things are. And I mean, it's a good and a bad thing. I mean, it's bad because, I mean, men are and can be creative. Yeah. And there's definitely a place for, creative men, but it's good, I would say, because it does set a specific structure for a guy to follow. Mm-hmm. But it's not necessarily the only structure, but it is definitely the one that people default to when they think of, I guess, what a man should do or provide. Creativity just isn't one of those things.
So do you think the being creative, I mean, it goes deeper than just writing or something. It's like literally anything. Like if we as human beings weren't creative, we wouldn't have anything. We wouldn't be able to do this. Like someone made this really cool clicky clack keyboard. I hope I just didn't turn off the thing. This is my first time using this software, but
that would have been hilarious.
That would have been pretty funny. Yeah. But like we're meant to dream. Like I think that's where I think that might be the right way to say it. And not just men, like everyone is almost suppressed to dream. Like especially go to college, get a degree, get a job, get a house, have a family, and all those things are great. But
there's nothing wrong with wanting those things either.
Exactly. I mean, but there's not one path. There's not one single path to do any of that.
Right.
And I think that might be a way too, because I mean, you had writing to pull you out of a situation that was very far from ideal.
It wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah. I mean, you could even use the term that being creative saved your life to an extent.
It definitely did. If I didn't have that thing to when I could spend time on it. If I didn't have that and was just a little bit more idle, I mean, with the headspace I was in at the time, I truly don't know what could have happened or what I may have done just because I was bored or had something else to do, or nothing else to do rather.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say that being able to write did, or I guess have that creative being able to turn to writing,
Yeah.
definitely saved me. 100%.
So what's your process to like when you are getting into being more of a writer, and when you transition from like, hey, I'm done doing this, because I'm pretty sure you just, like you said, you just stopped. You're like, I'm still dabbling this. I'm done. Like, there's no weaning myself off. There's nothing. I'm done with this because I have to do this because this is ultimately like who I am as a person. This is what the value I want to bring to society and the world. And it's this, and I have to do it. Nothing else can stop me.
I didn't really understand the question. I think I know what you're going for. I'm just
not gonna lie.
I might answer a completely different question, but
go ahead. I kind of lost myself asking that as well.
Story of my life. Well, I had always, thought of stories, and I knew that whatever happened, if I was able to, I would tell stories. And I just had this idea for this one day. And I can't really speak on anyone else's writing process because it's all different. But how I started for Pariahs was I literally just wrote down like plot points, like this person does this happens here, on sticky notes, and I just stuck them on my wall in the order that I thought sounded good. And eventually I had like 60 sticky notes just in a line on my wall, and I would move them around. It's like, no, the story would flow better if it did this. And after that, I was like, well, I kind of need to flesh this out a little more. So I did some research, made actual people instead of having character A and character B. I gave them names and personalities. And one day I just wanted to like start the story. I feel like I had everything I needed to make it, 60 sticky notes into 30 chapters. Yeah. And I was finding it really difficult to actually do it because it was a lot of dedication to like sit down and actually just, write hundreds of words at a time. And I like took a look at myself that I needed. It's like, you can't write when you're like this, so you can't be like this anymore. Like, yeah. if you truly want to write, then you got to give it up. And well, I convinced myself to do that.
That's a pretty like overall practical application everyone can do, right? Like if you have a dream, right, make sticky notes of it. Like write down what you want. Start to slowly make, like inch by inch, brick by brick, build something. And that's exactly what you did on your wall. Like how cool is that? I would love to see a picture
I guess I never really looked at it that way. It's like I really did just keep taking baby steps until I was like, oh, time to go. And then I went.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is. I never even thought of it that way.
I think that's the way everyone needs to look at it. Like, because you wanted to get out of your situation. Like I said, you wanted to cut out what was blocking that.
Right.
But in order to do that, you couldn't just write it. I mean, I guess you could just write a novel straight up, but it wouldn't be to your liking because it wasn't all fleshed out. So you just had to start. And how did you start? Like Post-it notes.
Yeah, just a literal sticky note on the wall for sticky note number 1. It's like, well, this happens. And then I just needed to figure out what was before it and what was after it. And I just kept building until I felt like I had a coherent story.
How long did that take?
From sticky notes to writing?
Or just like from, that. And then also from like the inception of you writing that to you finishing that, the Pariah one that I've read, and it's amazing.
So the very first thought at all I had, I was actually at work making a pizza at Papa John's. and I would just told my coworker, I'm like, hey, would you read a story that like this was the premise? So yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I'm like, all right, great. And then I went home and I'm like, all right, so this is all I got, and I wrote that on a sticky note. And then from that first, thought of it, it probably took maybe 7 months or so, one sticky note at a time. And then in between them all, I was also looking up, like just doing whatever research I felt I needed to do or could do even about
Like what?
just, I mean, most YA or fantasy books in general take place in a specific time period or base a lot of things off a specific time period. So I was looking up things of I forget what it's called, but it's some close to the Dark Age European type.
Like medieval type stuff?
Yeah, medieval is probably the best word to use for that.
RuneScape time?
Yeah, RuneScape-esque. And then just I had some naming systems that I wanted to use. For instance, a lot of the people who live in the desert area are named after Egyptian gods, just because I thought it sounded cool.
What about you want to tell them about
The world as a whole
yeah
is named after onions. Because when you say that, it's like,
cause
it's named after
onions have
onions.
layers like Shrek. Yeah, there's layers to your story.
Well, because people, that's a nice little pun. But when you say that in itself, no one takes it seriously. They're like, oh, it's like a book, like it's for comedic effect that it's named after onions. But it was because I thought of a word in allium, Allium. And I thought it sounded cool, and I Googled that because I wanted that to be the name of my world, and that's a genus of onion, and I'm like, yeah, let's just dive into this. I got nothing else going
I'm just
on.
gonna roll with it.
And I got nothing else to do except drugs, and I'm not doing that. So so I went on like a Wikipedia rabbit hole of looking up allium, and it actually turns out there's a lot of cool words, like cool types of onion names under the allium genus or species. And I just use those words for the town names. And
Well, it worked out pretty well. It does sound cool.
yeah, it does. And I truly thought that I just made that word up, and I was so devastated when it was an actual word already that was probably like, well, it's my word now too, so I'm gonna use it. I might as well use all the other onion words. And it just so happened to not sound bad, so I kept doing it.
So when it comes to all the writing, and we've talked about this so many times, with both of us being very creative and visionary type people, when we take action, sometimes it can kind of be hard. Like, for instance, doing
definitely.
this podcast, right? Like coming up with something random. It's like, what are people going to think about it? Whatever. I'm talking to my boy right here. So I'm just hanging out. Like, I'm having a good time, and someone else will hopefully find value out of this. I find loads of value out of it, but
or at least just have fun listening to it.
Exactly.
Which I guess would be value, yeah.
Yeah, it's entertainment. But we have a lot of blocks, like a lot of, what do we call it? Writer's block, creative block, whatever you want to call it.
Definitely.
What is your biggest method to get past that? Like, what do you do to bust past a wall of writer's block to keep going? And not just to, I know you never just write just to write. Like, you'll be like, yeah, I'm not writing for like a week because it's not happening.
Right.
It's not flowing the way I want it to. I'm not building it the way I want it to.
And I wish I was better about that, actually, because I don't know how it is for other people, but for me, where I am is really important to my writing. Like, if I go to the library and somebody's sitting in my spot that I usually write in, then it's so much, I have such a less productive day, and I don't know why, but that's that's like really important to me for some reason. And I wish I could just like sit down and like if I had time and just like pull out a notepad and keep writing, but it's just not like that for me. I wish it was. I've been trying to be better about it.
Do you wear the same clothes every time you write?
I usually will bring the same jacket, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
Same underwear, same
I
jacket,
have like a specific it's kind of like a pregame ritual where like I like take off my watch and like put my wallet down in like a specific order in a specific spot of the table. It's like really weird if someone watched me do it like more than once and they're like and they figure out that like I just do it that way every time. It would seem really weird probably.
I mean, it sounds kind of weird, not gonna lie, but I get it. Yeah. It's rituals. We all have them.
I'm used to it though. I've done it hundreds of times. And because like I guess I just did it one day and then wrote really well and like subconsciously it was just like, hey, do that every single time.
Well, that's healthier than me being like, oh, I had a really good day. What did I do? I drank 3 Monsters and I talked on the phone so well and I was so productive and I locked up X amount of deals.
So obviously it was the Monsters.
Yeah, let me keep running with that.
Yeah.
So I'll keep taking off the watch and putting the wallet in the same spot. That sounds
right.
pretty healthy.
Yeah. a lot healthier option probably.
Yeah.
But as for writer's block, that's a tough one. I guess the way I see it is it's not so much that I have a block, it's that I'll write maybe a paragraph or so and just kind of glance back over it, and it won't be up to par with what I'm used to writing, and that'll kind of like I'll block myself because I'm just thinking, oh, this like you can do better than this. That wasn't a good paragraph. You should just rewrite that.
Gotcha.
And then I get in my own head. And it affects my writing, and sometimes I just stop altogether. But a lot of the time, I can talk myself out of it because I'm used. Like I know how creative I can be, and how I can write, and it's easy to forget that not everyone has that ability. So, like what I would consider my bad writing may be beyond what someone else could even do. And not to say that I'm so great at it or they're so bad at it, but not everyone can just sit down and write part of a story from nothing.
Yeah.
And it's easy to forget that sometimes because I'm so used to being able to do it that on the days where I struggle with it or can't do it, I get kind of hard on myself and block myself mentally.
So, I mean, you've worked past that. You've obviously written so much.
Right.
Like you've gotten past that. So is it just time? Like, is it just like a clearer mental state you need to be in? Like what needs to happen?
It's more of an ongoing battle. So some days I'll get past it, some days it gets past me. Like obviously you have to get over it to completely finish like writing an entire novel.
Yeah.
But there's still days now where I sit down to write and like the things come out just not in the way that I want. And I guess it gets the best of me.
Yeah. So
it's kind of, it's just an ongoing thing. Some days are better than others, but writing at all may get past it. Like I'll be having kind of a rough time, but maybe I'll write like 2 really good sentences in a row and just see it and kind of tell myself like, oh, just do it like that, obviously.
2 sentences
and then I do, and then after 2 sentences, all of a sudden I'm 2,000 or 3,000 words in for the day.
Yeah. Now you were doing that. What's that challenge in November? Not NaNoWriMo. Yeah. iPod Nano. Yeah.
Yeah, iPod Nano. Yeah, it's so in every November there's this website called NaNoWriMo, and kind of the challenge is to get 50,000 words down just in the month of November, which 50,000 words in
What,
a few
30,
a few
31
months
days?
is hard.
Mm.
But the point of the challenge isn't to, if you don't get 50,000 words, you fail. It's to encourage you to write as much as possible. Whereas at the end of the month, you've pushed yourself so much, and even if you get 20,000, yeah, that's less than half, but you got 20,000 words out in 30 days,
Yeah.
which is a huge accomplishment in itself.
Yeah. I mean, I've read Prize 1. Have I read any Prize 2? I don't think you sent me any Prize 2.
No, just one. I may have sent you a couple of missing things that I wanted to add in to
Okay.
one, but I don't think I've sent you anything for 2.
So, and where you're at least Prize 1, that one is the most complete, correct?
Yeah, I would say it is. As far as the story goes, it's 100% complete. But
the stages of it to become published and out on a bookshelf, where are you at?
Oh, there's so much more. I would have to edit it a few times myself to make sure everything makes sense. I'd have to send it to at least one, maybe a couple professional editors, and then I would have to send it to ideally an agent who kind of has more pull than I would, sending it to publishing houses, and then hope that one of them thinks they can make enough money off of it to carry it.
Okay.
Or I could go the self-publishing route, which would kind of cut out those last two things, but would
make it harder to sell, I guess, right?
Right. It would be more work for me, which I don't mind, but the reason I would want to go with traditional publishing is they can get it on shelves. They would have a much higher or farther reach than me, and that's the goal. I would, if it was the same popularity regardless, if I self-published or traditionally published, I would make a lot more money self-publishing, but that's not why I'm doing it. Yeah. I want as many people to read it as possible, because that's the goal.
Yeah, definitely.
The more people that read it, the more people that'll like it.
Yeah. So what are your plans with the Pariah World? Yeah, how cold's that coffee, dude?
I don't think it's too cold. It's definitely not warm.
It's growing on me. Maybe it's just like it's dulling my taste buds.
So,
I'm sure they didn't make this right.
What I've noticed about Starbucks, having worked in a coffee place myself,
because you're a coffee snob.
No, a little bit. I've noticed that about myself. We'll get to that later. But I really try not to be, but I am one. I don't think they mix their coffees like fully.
What do you mean?
So when you put, because we got white mocha is really heavy, and even if you put it in last, which I think they put it in first, but even if you do put it in last, it's going to go all the way to the bottom, and if you don't mix it, it's kind of going to sit there, and like the coffee will absorb its flavor, but it won't be mixed. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
It's like if you're like marinating chicken and you just rub it on there, that's kind of what they're doing. Whereas if you like, if it sits in the marinade for like 6 hours, it's going to taste better.
All right, I'm gonna go in there and say, "Don't you rub that white chocolate on my coffee?"
Yeah, that's what they're doing. They're just rubbing it in, but they don't stir it because it's faster not to stir it, and they're super busy. And like I get it, but also you're making a worse drink.
Well, so, yeah, you were on the phone with me. I was in the drive-thru for like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
they got there quick,
and they had to make you and Clint's drinks really fast, so they probably didn't stir it. So the reason it tastes better now is because you're getting more of the white mocha as you get closer to the bottom.
Do a little stirring of it. Kind of lost where we're at on that, but I think we're...
No, I'm still on the coffee thing. So man, these people. I don't know what it is, but I went from not liking coffee like 3 years ago to be like I can only drink specific coffees now because so many people just I don't know what they do. There's three things in this cup and it doesn't taste as good as it should. And I don't know if that's me knowing, how to barista or like
Is that a
yeah,
verb? Is that
I
actually a verb?
it is now. It
It is
probably
now.
is. But
To barista.
two barista. But they just I don't know if they're using bad beans or they don't keep their milk cold enough, but it's not
Interesting.
good. This one's fine, but
You are a coffee snob. I mean,
well,
you've definitely
so every
you've
week
become one.
yeah, I have. I didn't think so, but a few weeks ago I noticed it because of one specific situation, and now I'm going to get into it. So a new
Yep.
coffee place opened. Oh man, I'm going to get heated.
All right, let's get it. I want to see you get it, man. If you don't slam that headset down, oh man,
Maybe not that mad. I might do it. Who knows? So every week, me and my friend, usually on Thursdays, we go get coffee at a local place, just wherever we feel like going.
Mhm.
And a new place opened up a couple weeks ago, and so we went and tried it. Obviously, when we got there, they don't have a menu when you get there, so you have to look it up online. Which that's strike one. Like, what if
that's kind of weird.
how are you gonna know? You just pull up. There's no thing to look at. Like, how would you know? But that's not my issue. Do you know what a cafe au lait is?
Excuse me?
A,
Is that an animal?
a cafe, yeah. So a cafe au lait, it's
No. That sounds like something in Spain they like chase when they get the bulls with the red things.
yeah.
With
So-
the red things. I sound so educated.
Capes,
Public school
perhaps.
system has failed me. Huh?
So a cape, a red cape.
Yep.
So cafe au lait is French for coffee with milk. And
Okay.
having worked at a coffee place, I just kind of thought that was common knowledge because, when you're in that world, everyone knows what that means. Because you work there, you know what it means. If they order it, they know what it means. And it's just half coffee, half steamed milk. That's it. So I ordered that, and they didn't know what it was. And so I explained it, which, to their credit, it's a new place. They just hired, people who applied. They might not be into coffee, and they just wanted a job. And I understand that. So I explained it to them. And I was trying to be, not rude about it because I didn't want to be that customer. I didn't want to be the coffee snob.
Here it goes. I can't hear it. Here it is. Here it is.
So I told them, oh, it's just instead of a full cup of coffee, it's just half of that, and the other half is steamed milk. And they said they couldn't sell me that because they didn't have it, which they have caught. And I looked up their menu. It's not on the menu. It's just they have regular coffee, and to make every other drink, you have to steam the milk. It's just those two things. And
so they just said they couldn't charge you because they don't have on the register or something like that?
no,
Like,
they
it's not
said they
an
didn't
actual
have the
item?
ability. They couldn't make it.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, and so it was a big kerfuffle. Like four people came and talked to me about it, and finally the manager came out and he said, "All our drinks are espresso based," telling me that I didn't know what I was talking about. And coffee and just a brewed coffee and espresso are different things. I understand that. I'm just trying to make sure that you can just make half a cup of coffee and the rest is just steamed milk. You don't have to say you can't make it. You make it for literally every drink. It's just not with espresso in it.
So they said they had nothing but espresso.
Well, no, because they had regular coffee. And it was it's half of both. It's literally the easiest thing to make except for a cup of coffee. And you tell me you can't make it? Oh boy, was I heated.
So what did you do? Did you get back there and make it yourself?
No, I just got a latte and sucked it up.
What kind of latte? Plain?
Just plain, because I just wanted a plain OLA, and they're like, it's going to be stronger this way. And in my mind, I was like, well, that's why I wanted it the other way, because I didn't want it to be as strong.
I think you're the one that told me that the lighter
but you're going to gaslight me. I'm sorry. You're going to gaslight me and say that, like, it's like, oh, we don't know what that is. And sure, not everyone knows what an Olay is. But we're in Louisiana, where like every other person speaks like coon-ass French. So to work at a coffee place and not know Olay in Louisiana it was so weird to me. I was so mad. I made a Facebook post about it. That's how mad I was.
I probably liked it. Whenever you post a Facebook status, like I need to get it set up so I get a notification.
So you get a notification.
Always something pretty funny.
Yeah, I usually don't put anything that like a normal, coherent person would think of on there, which is why I think so many people resonated with it. They're like, oh, like a normal thought. Let's read this. I mean, it's true. I put some wild things on the internet.
So you're the one that told me, right, that the lighter the coffee, the higher the caffeine like concentration or content is.
Well,
whatever,
it's more of a
right?
flavor thing.
So you lied to me.
No, I would never lie to you.
Oh, okay.
But
except for the time you told me about coffee colors.
The lighter the roast, I guess the lighter the flavor.
Then what does that have to do with caffeine?
What do you mean?
Anything? You told me like the lighter the roast, the more caffeine was in it. Or has that just been a placebo for me? Now that I think you've told me that, and I think I'm like drinking. All right, whatever. I've like told people that. Like, yeah, my buddy works at a coffee shop. He told me the lighter the roast.
You're just saying this random thing.
Yeah, this guy's super knowledgeable about coffee roast colors and.
So yeah, he said coffee actually makes you taller too. So I'm.
Nice.
So you've just been telling everybody that, and they're like, yeah, okay.
Thanks. That was a good one. Well, the last point I want to touch on about the creative stuff is like, what are, for you personally, what are some of the biggest hurdles, the biggest fears you've had with your, vehicle of creativity being writing? What are some of the biggest fears that you've had to overcome? And the fears you still face, how are you overcoming them now? And why have you not published your book yet so everyone can read it?
It's always going to be in the back of my mind, a lot of the times in the front of my mind. If it's good enough for other people to read it. For me, I'm hypercritical of myself when it comes to writing. So if I think it isn't good enough in any way, then I feel like no one should read it, because it's just going to be the worst thing on the planet. Because I feel that it isn't up to my own standards, which it's good and bad, because I want to have high standards for myself so I can, make the best stories possible.
Yeah.
But it definitely hinders me a lot, because if I think it's not good enough, all the time, then I'll never get it all out, or I'll never publish it, because I won't want people to read it.
Yeah.
Because if they read it and then they think it's not good enough, and they think I don't have the ability, then, what am I really doing? Though.
So how are you combating it?
And that's why I guess I haven't pushed as hard as I need to get it published and like take the steps required, because I'll see bits and parts of it that aren't to my standard, and I don't know how to get it there. But I feel like that goes back to that not everyone can do what I've done, like
Yeah.
writing wise, and that because my standards for that are so high, they don't need to be, because what I think is, piss poor for myself, everyone else may think that it's like really good. And that's just another, get in my own head type thing. And I feel like I should kind of be over that to some extent at this point, because every single person that I've shown it to has thought it was pretty great.
Yeah, and it is.
And well, art is subjective. But I feel like as the person who like made it, I'm just a lot closer to it. So
Yeah.
if, I might see a few things that are just out of place or not good, whereas someone else may not notice them at all or just not care at all, because they're so into it that that's not what's important to them. But so yeah, it's kind of rough.
I mean, but outside of writing, you've got some other things you're working on too that we've talked about. I mean, you don't have to go too in depth, but you might as well spill the beans. So you're speaking this in the universe. You are holding yourself accountable now with however many people watch this.
Yes.
Along with publishing
so
books.
Are you talking about like the app or the card game or both?
Yeah, both.
Both. Yeah, I don't want to speak too much about the app, because I genuinely do think that that's going to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, I don't want to put it out and have someone else recognize just how absolutely incredible it's going to be.
Yeah.
And kind of beat me to it. But yeah,
I know you're excited about it.
Yeah, I really am. But like teaching yourself to code is hard. And that's like which I figured it would be, people make whole careers out of it, but man, that's definitely a hurdle.
I mean, yeah, you're doing this from scratch. Like, it's truly a grassroots thing you're trying to make.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to the creativity too, is one day I just had this thought of, like this idea for a mobile game, and I told a couple people about it, and they said, yeah, that is something worth pursuing. So
was that a burp?
Yeah, I tried to hold it back. I don't know.
No, you should have let it rip.
Nah, I think I've only genuinely burped like 6 or so times in my life, aside from, being burped as a baby. But I don't even recall those times, so maybe I didn't even burp. Who knows?
But do you just hold it back?
No, I think it dies in my throat. I don't know how. Yeah, it's just such is life, But and people have like, people how to make yourself burp, right?
Yeah. So
I can't do
funny.
that.
Neither can I. We talk about this at work. People are like, you can't make yourself burp, and they like swallow some air and like burp the ABCs, and I'm like,
right?
No,
you can't.
What are you doing?
That's just like, I can't comprehend how you can force your body to do that, because I can't.
I don't get it.
I just like, you just take in air and then make it come back. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I don't.
It doesn't make sense to me. I've tried before, and it just kind of doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
So
it doesn't.
Some people can do that. Some people can write books. It's just we all have our strengths, and that is not one of mine.
So when are you going to have the app completed, you think?
Who knows? Ideally, it would be great if I could do that all in a year, because if I had the ability to code, I could probably do it in like a month, because it's like just like going over it in my head, all the mechanics of the game and how long everything would actually be. it's not that complicated.
Not super mechanically intensive, yeah.
Right.
But it's a simple idea, but that's I think why it's so good. Is
right.
because
And like you know what it is, so you kind of
Yeah.
have a little more insight on it, but it's especially because it's a lot of the coding would have to do with like touch screen.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like you do like an input and then this happens. That's pretty much all it's going to be, just over and over. So it's not like the most intense thing, like coding wise, but I just don't know how to do it. So
Well,
if I knew
nope.
it wouldn't take very long. But since I don't, I guess it's just, it all depends how quickly I'm able to grasp coding.
Yeah.
So who
Yeah. What
knows?
about the card game?
A year would be great. The card game's different because um, easier because there's less, I guess, technical things to do. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of work out the game, make the cards, and then make the art and everything, and then get it printed. Because
I
there's a
mean,
lot of like places, excuse me, that it died in my throat, that will just you give them the money and they'll print you like a not sample, but I guess like a beta version of your game, like a first copy print of it,
yeah.
and then can just go from there, see what happens. That if I get all the cards made and everything, maybe a few months. It depends what the back and forth with the publisher would be like.
I mean, we
But
talked quite a while one day about that, and
yeah,
you basically got it fleshed out. Like you've got all the game mechanics fleshed out,
right.
all the
And
intricate details.
yeah, and even some, I guess, naming systems. So
Uh-huh.
to make all the cards and everything would be pretty easy. I would just have to find a way to find all the art for these instead of just, Google image stand-ins.
Yeah. True.
But yeah, I'm excited for both of those things because specifically the app, I genuinely think what it like is a good idea to pursue.
Definitely.
Um, and I feel like that holds some merit considering how hard I am on myself with all my you know, creative endeavors. So
Yeah.
for me to think that it could go somewhere as long as I do it right, um, means it's worth doing.
Definitely.
And the card game, I guess, would be more of a for fun thing. Specifically, just get the first copy printed, and then
Mm-hmm.
it would be like a nice thing when I go play board games and stuff. It's like we could play the game that I made, and then
Yep.
actually have it. It would be pretty cool.
Maybe we'll have another episode about that. We can talk about
Once it's out,
our,
yeah.
our
I
nerdy
could send you
stuff.
a copy.
We can play on
That'd
a
be pretty
podcast.
sick.
That would be kind of sick.
And I mean it. Oh, I guess I could do kind of like a tie-in thing with the Swarm story. So I haven't thought about that
That's
before.
true. A few eggplants here or there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Was it egg? It was grapefruits. That's what it was, which are not eggplants at all.
they're not at
No.
all. they're not even purple.
See, I think in my head, because I say grape for grapefruit, as everyone else does, I just think purple. Because,
And you just went full on eggplant with it.
yeah, it's just, why not completely butcher it mentally?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Just go ahead. Just jump off the cliff.
Yeah.
So how can people stay in touch with you or follow along with your journey with everything you're doing?
Oh, I don't want people to talk to me at all or keep in touch with me ever.
I know.
I'm not a people person,
Yeah,
obviously. But I have started putting some of my writings on the internet, which is a big thing for me because I haven't done that.
Proud of you with that. That is big.
Yeah, again, just not even to get feedback, but to do it so
Build the
I
habit.
guess kind of like a confidence booster, or
Mhm.
I guess like a taking down a barrier, because now, regardless if it's good or not, people are going to read it,
Yep.
and I just haven't done that before. Um, I only have one thing so far posted.
It's good though. You want me to drop that? You want me to drop the link in?
Yeah, that's fine. That
Cool.
one is a lot more personal than what most of what I write, but
Yeah, it's good.
yeah, I think so. I enjoyed writing it for sure.
So other than your personal Facebook where you talk about people like in the Target parking lot or in a coffee shop, uh, can people follow you on Instagram? Is that your favorite? I know you don't post much on there, but I know
Oh
I'm trying
yeah,
to
I
push
haven't
you
posted
to
on
post more
Instagram
on there.
in a while. I guess the DeviantArt would be the best, because that's the one I know for sure I'm going to regularly post to, whether it just be writing these random writings
Okay.
or not. Did I tell you about the naming system that I found for I'm pretty sure I told you how they were for my postings. Um, I kind of, for the first one, I it's kind of a play on
Oh,
an
you did,
on an
yeah.
epic poem, and I thought that was kind of cool. So that's what I'm gonna do for all of them until I run out of puns. But
Do you want to go over them on here, or just want to wait till they come out?
off the top of my head, well, I just think Paradise Found, which is a play
The
on
first one.
Paradise Lost. I just think that sounds cool regardless, even if it wasn't a play on. Just
Yeah,
it really encapsulates what I was going for too. I just think it's a solid title for what I wrote,
definitely.
and because it was a pun on Paradise Lost, I just searched up a few epic poem names, and it turns out a lot of them could be kind of changed or spun into titles for these stories about my life, which I don't even give myself credit for. I just think when they made the titles, like they 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 those poems are very aptly titled, like for sure. And then I'm stealing them and pretending that I was smart in changing them.
Fair enough.
But yeah, off the top
Well,
of my head, Paradise Found was the first one off Paradise Lost. Um, I'm
do you
pretty sure it's.
remember? Do
Go
you
ahead.
remember you used to listen to Club Paradise all the time, and you would just text me Club Paradise randomly?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, that's so funny that the first thing's titled Paradise,
Yeah.
Paradise Lost. That's great.
So there was that one. There's the Ides of the Jester, the Idols of the Jester, which is a play on the Idols of the King, which kind of talks about what we touched on briefly with the drug use. Oh, what were the other ones? There were a couple really good ones that when I thought of it, I was really proud of myself for being able to steal so accurately.
They're in their text messages somewhere.
Yeah, they're in there somewhere. But I just think that as far as like a title goes, they just what I would be going for, like I guess theme wise, they just hit it right on the mark. So you know what you're getting into before you even read it.
For sure. First one's good. I'm gonna drop that one in the link for wherever we post this. Still don't really know how that's gonna go, but we're gonna get it figured out.
What was the question? Oh, where can they reach me? Scotty Seashells is kind of the name that I'm
At Scotty Seashells.
at. Scotty Seashells.
I'll drop that too because
I wish I
it can
could.
be
Do I have that on Instagram? Is that
pretty
me?
pretty sure. Yeah,
I don't know
you have
who
like
else would.
4 because you keep forgetting your passwords or something.
Yeah, probably. That sounds like me.
Yeah, I went through like unfollowing people the other day, and just like companies that like I don't need that
Yeah,
random
on the
I don't need
gram.
to consume their content, and I found like 3 of yours that I'm following. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah,
So I don't know when I made those, but over the last couple of years, I have every single username and password in the notes tab in my phone.
that's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, there's a
That
lot of
goes
them,
back to like
and
that goes back far.
there's probably a much better way to like keep those. but they're just like in the notes in my phone.
That's impressive. That first one goes back to like high school.
Which one?
It's Tyler Mush or something like that.
T Mush.
T Mush, yeah.
Yeah.
T dot Mush, yeah. Oh
Yeah, that
man.
one's in there. Yeah, I think there's like 40 of them in there.
40?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's my logins for everything, like some social medias, my emails, like my Fidelity account, like it's just everything. My Capital One car insurance payment.
Yeah, there's a better system.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's just I started off this way, and I'm stubborn, and that's just the way I'm gonna keep doing it.
Fair enough.
Until someone steals my phone and is able to log into everything, I'm gonna assume that this is a good way to do it.
Fair enough. But yeah, I want to thank you for coming on here and kind of sharing some of the deep stuff that I know you don't talk about often.
Yeah.
And I know you try probably not to think about often.
Yeah, it's definitely not the highlight of like my upbringing, but I mean, I went through it. It's part of it helped me, get to where I am now.
And I know you're proud of yourself of how you got out of that. I mean, dude,
yeah,
the things you've done in the last 5 years, pretty impressive.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
No, you gotta publish it so everyone can read it. It's
more of, I don't know, like I'm proud of myself that I was able to pull myself out of that, especially with the understanding of not everyone is able to.
Yeah.
So definitely a good time now that I was able to get past it.
Well, we are running a little over an hour, which honestly, I had no expectation for this at all since this is the first one, but I couldn't have picked a better person to start it off with.
I legitimately didn't think I'd be able to say things for more than like 20 minutes.
You did a pretty good job.
Well, you framed things really well, so it was easy to give my opinion on things.
Open-ended questions, man. That's what they teach you in the old sales jobs.
Well,
cool deal, man. Well, thank you for joining me. I hope everyone enjoyed this as much as I did, even just talking to you. And I hope it brought value to at least one person, because that's really just the goal. Everyone go get a medium roast.
Don't order it the way that you ordered it, though. There are so many fluff words. Just say a tall, grande, or venti, however much coffee you need.
That doesn't make sense. But also,
I
ordered a Pike's Roast, whatever.
Yeah, just
Pike's Place. I don't even know. Medium roast with one pump of white chocolate mocha sauce.
Yeah, if anyone says white mocha sauce, that's like it just sounds gross that way.
It sounds disgusting.
Just say I want a tall medium roast. They don't whatever they have brewed is fine. If you say Pike's Place, who cares? It's going to taste the same. A medium roast with white mocha and heavy cream. You don't just cut out the fluff words. And if you order an Olay and they tell you they don't know what it is, just don't get coffee there, because it's half coffee, half milk.
Here we go.
I'm gonna ooh. Anyway,
we'll end it on that.
Yeah, we need the ooh.
Well, thanks again, dude. I appreciate you so much, man. Love you, dude. Thanks for jumping in on this with me.
Absolutely. Always good to talk to you.
Always. All right. I'll see you later.
All right. Bye, man.
I don't know how to end this.
I think